How are you?
Talking to myself. Is Dad gonna be here?
You will.
Security.
Let me just say for the ritual committee, we're on time.
That's good, because I was checking.
As always.
10, we have 10. How many people are on? Paul? No?
See, we're so socialized to start either on time or maybe a minute later than time. That the online folks aren't.
How's the experiment working? Are we gonna stay at 7 o'clock or are we gonna go back to 7:30?
We're going. We are going to survey the congregation, and we'll ask sort of how that impacts people's coming as part of what they prefer. But is 7 o'clock better than 7:30? Is 7:30 better? So we'll before sort of going to that next meeting. There are good cases to be made for either of the two.
I prefer 7:30. Okay. I don't know, I couldn't say why, but just getting here at 7 here. And it's not even like I'm coming home from work or having to, make dinner later or anything ridiculous, but I prefer 7:30.
So if we were to do a spot poll this evening, 7:30 better, 7 o'clock better?
I mean, I would still come at 7.
Yeah, good. But particularly if you're reading Torah, you should be here. But between the two, there's 7.
It doesn't matter.
No, I mean, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You can put it in the chat, but good. But actually, it is 7. So we are gathering, and so.
I don't think we should wait till 7:30, just because, All right.
We can't give in to those habits, that's the whole thing of
I
it.
know.
So-
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome the people who are here and our friends who are tuning in online. And we are excited about the upcoming event tomorrow night. I'm hoping that we get to see all of you tomorrow night. But in the meantime, it is Shabbat, and we are going to welcome Shabbat. Even though today doesn't feel like a garden day, the rabbi put in mind last week he was talking about Sadi Katamar and the garden images. And so I planned it this week, and of course tonight is so cold. But we will find the words to Sadi Katamar on page 140. And some of those images are: the righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. So it does kind of put me in the mind of the garden. Sadi Katamar Birkat rot Eloheinu yafrichu od Yenulvan Beseva Bishenim Iranani
Linda and I have worked as colleagues for years, and she's correct. I referenced last week, she heard that she loves to sing the psalm, which you just heard, which she opened with, Tzadik HaTamar. Translation, the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree, growing like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. The vision offered in the passage, in the psalm, is of being well-rooted, grounded, and linked to God's house. The inference is that we should be well-rooted, grounded, and feel good to be here this evening. So first, thank those around you for being here. You're an elite group, but a very good one. And if you haven't met yet, please introduce yourself. Say Shabbat Shalom. I think that some folks here know, but not necessarily all folks near. And on page 120, Sharon Goldman leads us in Hadlakat HaNerot, the kindling of the lights of Shabbat, page 120.
Source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Is that me? There's another one.
Sorry about that.
Pushing in, but it's just not. Oh.
Here, and let me,
Thank you.
here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Please let us join together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Page 142, we continue welcoming Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech Malachei HaMlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachim Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Chatzi Kaddish will be found on page 144, page 144.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash merabah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrahiute ve'amlik mahute.
V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedechol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kari.
V'meru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam u'le'olmaya, Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal, Shemei de'kudashah. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma b'meru. Amen.
Across the page, we read, "Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways." On page 146 is the Baruch Hu. We invite those who are able to rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
I read on the bottom of page 148, "Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim." And the bottom of page 150, "Praise to Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. The Ve'ahavta will be found on page 154. We join together with Linda.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uv'leftecha v'derech u'shokbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot be'einecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet, page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mi Chamocha, our song of freedom, page 158, just across the page.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedor b'kodesh, norat tehilo, oseh mifelech, norat tehilo, oseh mifelech. Mahutecha Rahu Vanecha, Bokeh Hayom Lifnei Moshe, Zeli, Zeli, Anu Ve'ameru,
Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Vahed, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Vahed, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Vahed. Page 161, I ask that we read together the second reading on the page. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Page 162, our prayer for Shabbat at the top of the page, Vishamru.
Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
She knows. I always love that melody. It's a South African lullaby, that melody. And
Could put children to sleep, I think.
well, nobody fell asleep, but it's calming and it
Yes.
feels so Shabbos-like that way. Just beautiful. On page 164 begins the tefillah. For those who are able, we invite you to rise. The blessings that we chant are going to be on the right-hand pages, the even-numbered pages, starting 164, continuing to page 170.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava. Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magehi, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Abraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rab L'Choshia, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamin Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Givurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Menit U'Mechayev, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. Rabbi David Wolpe quotes the rabbinic legend that when the temple was being destroyed and flames engulfed the temple structure, the high priest took the key that opened the Holy of Holies. He took the key and he desperately flung it up into the sky. And then out of the clouds came a giant hand that closed over the key, caught it, and drew it back into the sky. And it will be returned when the temple is rebuilt, teaches the Talmud. Rabbi Wolpe then adds, many years ago, my father told me to notice what the high priest did not throw into the sky. What did the high priest not throw into the sky? The Torah. He continues, the Jewish people are a phoenix pursued by arsonists. Despite the recurrent flames, we continue to cherish the ideals of that Torah. Again and again, we turn flames into a source of illumination, like the biblical pillar of fire in the dark of the desert, forging meaning from loss and kindling sparks of holiness amid destruction. Anchored in Torah, our greatest hope is for shalom, for peace, and for wholeness in realm upon realm. May our people and all peoples know the blessings of peace. We sing Shalom Rav for abundant peace, page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Yitahu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Etov Enecha Levarech Et Amecha Yisrael Bechoret ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Tasim Leolam, Tasim Leolam. Silent meditation, page 180.
Yehiyu l'ratzon imreti v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tsuri Tsuri V'Gawali Adonai Tsuri V'Gawali Oseh Shalom B'Rama Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael V'imru Amen Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael.
We've all been busy. You've had a big simcha. You've been very busy. You've been very busy. I'm looking at the number. Is it really? This is the case? We're already 23 days since the beginning of Passover. We count this time period from Passover to Shavuot, journeying symbolically from freedom to responsibility. Each night, each Shabbat, as well, we count the Omer, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer, hayom shlosha ve'esrim yom shehem shlosha shvuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is the 23rd day, wow, making it 3 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. We now turn to page 364. We rise as the Torah will be taken out of the ark. We sing Ki Mitzion.
Ki
Mitzion
tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai miYerushalayim.
Please be seated. A beautiful reflection was recently published in the New York Jewish Week. It was authored by Rabbi Samantha Natov. You remember her? She was your house guest practically every week for, it seemed like 2-3 years. Then student Cantor Sam, then Cantor Sam, now Rabbi Sam or Rabbi Natov. She was our student cantor. In Stephen's words, our student cantor emeritus would be how you would describe her, and our dear friend. Now, in this piece in the New York Jewish Week, this was the first time she was published in the New York Jewish Week, Rabbi Sam contrasted the new chatbot with the Jewish process of engaging in Torah. She even had the chat box write something in like biblical language. But here's the point which she explained. She said, and this will be familiar to some of the folks in our discussion group on Tuesday, because this was one of the assignments for last week. She explains, what has remained constant throughout the ages is reading Torah each week from the scroll. Something about it is valued enough to keep this tradition in place, end quote. She continued, the scroll is handwritten with no vowels or punctuation, requiring the reader to spend a great deal of time learning how to read the ancient text. It is the least efficient method of transmitting information. But when it comes to Torah, we are not looking for efficiency. Rabbi Sam further adds, it is said that when we study Torah with at least one other person, the Shekhinah, the feminine and most accessible aspect of God, dwells among us. At the time when we are opening our hearts and minds to growth, when we are engaged in spiritual connection, God is with us. Now, there's good reason to maintain our standard practices as we continue to do from generation to generation. Tonight, Sandy Gold is our Ba'alat Koreh, our Torah reader, and her process of preparation followed a commitment to treasure those ancient words as described by Rabbi Sam. The Torah portion from the book of Leviticus, this is the middle book of the Torah, is in fact a double portion, Achemot Kedoshim. Sandy reads from the second, Kedoshim or holiness, words that have themselves long centered our people. The concepts here are so central that this is the portion, it's one of the ones that can also be read on Yom Kippur, our most holy day. Tellingly, the message of the portion is relational, as we read of the ethical and ritual behavior that is to ground Jewish identity. Now, Sandy is chanting Leviticus first 19, 1 through 4, and then 9 through 18, and then 32 through 37. For those, pardon? If she survives. If she survives. For following along in the Torah commentaries, as Linda has, that's on, you'll see it begins on page 894 in the Torah commentary. And she'll be beginning right at the beginning, which is verse Aleph. Dan, we're going to invite you forward for our Aliyah. And Sandy, let me first make sure we are right at the right spot. And in fact, we are. This is more dangerous than I thought. There's workman's comp the day before the gala.
Yeah, that would be
Right.
really, and the second last portion. Right. So it starts here,
Yeah.
and then the break is.
Of Kutzrechem,
Kutzrechem.
which is right there.
Okay, and the other part I know is below.
The
It's with Mipnei.
Oh, Mipnei, so yeah,
That's-
right there.
Okay,
Right there.
so of Kutzrechem, that's the one. I need.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so, we're
Double
Well,
time.
You're doing double duty tonight, Dan. Yeah, and if you're good, you can raise the Torah too. So,
Right, you got the energy.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Hadaber Adonai El Moshe Lemor Daber El Kol Adat B'nei Yisrael Ve'amarta Lehem Kedoshim Tihiyu Ki Kadosh Ani Adonai Elohechem Ish Imo Ve'aviv Tira'u Ve'et Shabtotai Tishmoru Ani Adonai Elohechem Al Tifnu El Ha'elilim Ve'Elohei Masecha Lo Ta'asu Lachem Ani Adonai Elohechem. Yes, right here. Uv Kutzrechem Et Ketzir Artechem Lo Tilake Tichale Ve'at Sadecha Lektor Veleket Ketzircha Lo Tilake V'charmecha Lo Te'olel Uferet Karmecha Lo Tilaket Le'ani Ve'lager Ta'azov Otam Ani Adonai Elohechem Lo Tignovu Velo Tichachashu Velo Tishakru Ish Ba'amito Velo Tishavu Bishmi Lashaker Vehilalta Et Shem Elohecha Ani Adonai Lo ta'ashoket re'acha, v'lo tigzol lo talin peulat sakir itcha ad boker lo tekalel cheresh v'lifnei ver lo titein michshol ve'areta me'elohecha ani Adonai lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat lo tisa p'nei dal v'lo tedar p'nei gadol b'tzedek tishpot amitecha lo telech rachil be'amecha lo ta'amod al dam re'echa ani Adonai lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha hocheach tochiach et amitecha v'lo tisa Allah v'lo tisa Allah v'lo tisa Allah chet lo tikom v'lo titor et b'nei amecha ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Adonai.
And then
Mi p'nei, it's a different tune. Mi p'nei seva takum v'hadarta p'nei zaken ve'areta me'elohecha ani Adonai. V'chi yagur itecha ger be'artzachem lo tonu oto ke'ezrach mikem yihye lachem hager hagar itechem ve'ahavta lo kamocha ki gerim heitem be'eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Ani Adonai Elohechem lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat b'midah b'mishkal u'b'mesurah Moznei tzedek avnei tzedek efat tzedek vehin tzedek yihye lachem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim ushmartem et kol hukotai ve'et kol mishpatai va'asitem otam ani Adonai.
wow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Are we getting a thumbs up from Paul?
Oh, yeah, what does Paul say?
Just
He's-
beautiful. Just
Thank you, he's
beautiful.
tired of hearing it.
He's going to do it next because he must know you're listening.
Yeah, what a stunning, beautiful, beautiful reading. For those who are able, we invite you to rise as the Torah itself is raised, Bezot HaTorah, at the bottom of page 370. Lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe.
La 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 la
Eitz Chaim. He will be found the bottom of page 374.
Is
Chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomhecha meushar deracheha darchei nolam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Thank you. Please be seated. As we offer the blessing for healing this Shabbat, we are mindful of Yvette Mickenberg, Reverend Ken Frazier, Pat Marignani, Hamarat Tzvi Amina, Bat Tzvi Hirsch, Ita Ve'utzvi Hirsch, Judy Sherman, Stuart Rabinowitz, and Ron Saunders. There are also people for whom we pray privately. For those in our sanctuary, please feel free to share aloud the names of people for whom we likewise pray publicly this Shabbat.
Susan Waters, Lauren Venus, Kendra Moss.
Brody Dolburn.
For those on Zoom, we ask you to unmute and say out loud the names of those for whom we also pray this Shabbat.
Norma Hecker, Michelle Klein, and Gil Abramson.
Preston Tallman.
For all, may the Holy One send healing and shelter in protection. Our prayer is heal us now. Here's something I haven't done in 3 years, stepped it back down. It really feels good to do so. Sandy, you chanted beautifully tonight's Torah portion, which is Kedoshim, it's the Holiness Code. What happened and what Sandy chanted was among the things which we read in the Holiness Code, it restates the 10 Commandments, and then the Torah adds a whole additional level of moral sensitivity beyond the 10 Commandments. And these are very ancient words which were presented tonight, and extremely relevant ones. So in the text, God asks Moses to speak to the whole Israelite community, explaining what needs to be done, not only for individual aspirations, but for communal values. Moses is reporting, in essence, what it will make to make the community vibrant and holy and sacred and complete. And so there's a list, mitzvot, commandments, and it focuses on a number of items. And the first thing which Sandy chanted was about revering parents. And it's not that the Torah is saying that our parents were perfect or our parents are perfect. No person in the Torah is ever presented as being perfect. Yet it's stating here that there should be gratitude for their efforts at nurturance and at sustaining us. And we should be humble and thankful. If, say, like me, life comes with inheriting a difficult to find shoe size. You don't know of my travails of trying to buy shoes. And in my case, life comes with less than ideal skin. The Torah portion saying revering parents, it's stop complaining. It's saying the gift of life or its continuance is never a guarantee. So let us be grateful to our parents for the opportunity to have life and extend that lesson to other generations. It says also in what Sandy chanted, there's show deference to the old. Judaism is countercultural, a rejection of the anti-aging focus of our society. And while this joke I received this week is an exaggeration, you be the judge. 2 patients limp into 2 different medical clinics with the same complaint. Both have trouble walking and appear to require a hip replacement. The first patient is examined within the hour, is x-rayed the same day, and has a time booked for surgery the following week. The second sees his family doctor after waiting 3 weeks for an appointment, then waits 8 weeks to see a specialist, then gets an x-ray, which isn't reviewed for another week, and finally has his surgery scheduled for 3 months from then. Why the different treatment for the 2 patients? You know the punchline? The different treatment for the 2 patients? The first is a golden retriever, and the second is a senior citizen. Returning to the list of mitzvot, Shabbat, taking time to be with others and focused on rest and renewal, not turning to idols. Given our pluralistic orientation, our determination to be inclusive, I suspect that some are uncomfortable with condemning idolatry, figuring that whatever floats your boat is really just fine. Still, in essence, this instruction challenges us not against idolatry, it's challenging us not to look for simplistic solutions or to have us ignore a larger totality and make an idol out of our own handiwork. Similarly, the list also includes do not turning to ghosts, a superstition demeaning us and endeavoring to dethrone God. We are to leave gleanings, part of the harvest, for the poor and the stranger. One of the many wonderful activities of this congregation is the Mitzvah Garden, so dedicatedly organized by Linda and hopefully not freezing tonight. Food insecurity remains such a real problem, with this current inflationary period pushing people over the edge. We are not to steal or give false testimony, rob or defraud a neighbor. We are to have honest weights and measures. That was the last segment which you were chanting. We are not to act deceitfully or to promote falsehood. In an article I've assigned to the Tuesday discussion class, Walter Russell Mead recounts a cabinet meeting in 1862 where President Abraham Lincoln asked Secretary of State William Seward, he said, "How many legs does a sheep have if you count a tail as a leg?" How many legs does a sheep have if you count a tail as a leg? And Seward answered, he said, 5. "Wrong," responded Lincoln. "The answer is 4. Calling a tail a leg doesn't make it one." In the Holiness Code, we're also instructed not to take advantage of others, not to insult the deaf, nor place a stumbling block before the blind, to being impartial when judging, and to not stand idle while others bleed. In a column today, David Brooks contrasts such a focus on human dignity with its antithesis, which is amorality. He writes, "In an amoral world, cruelty, dishonesty, vainglory, and arrogance are valorized as survival skills. In the mind of an amoral realist, life is not a moral drama. It's a competition for power and gain, read in tooth and claw. Other people are not possessors of souls, of infinite dignity and worth. They are objects to be utilized." Such is the very opposite of the Torah's instructions that Sandy chanted. In speaking honestly and openly, we must nonetheless be respectful. As the list of mitzvot also states, reprove your neighbor, but incur no guilt because of him. In other words, if you think you have a justified complaint, do not brood over it, but state it forthrightly. Yet as our great Rabbi Rashi counsels, it must be done appropriately. Reprove your neighbor, but do not shame him publicly, says Rashi. A final item on the list summarizes the guidance in this section. Rabbi Akiva, the ancient sage, identified this mitzvah as the foremost principle of the Torah. Love your neighbor as yourself. We are to respect ourselves, and then we're called to respect others. Clearly, this too is not the thinking of an amoral realist. As presented this week, the mitzvot enumerated and chanted are not separate, disparate pieces, but connected elements to be interwoven together into a larger tapestry for an entire group, the whole community of Israel. We can do many, if not all, of these things simultaneously. Revering parents, deference to the old, Shabbat, avoiding idolatry and superstition, leaving gleanings for the poor and the stranger, honesty and integrity, empathy for those in tough straits or with special needs, offering reproof, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. And so, if you're comfortable, before we close in sharing, I do ask, how does this list grab you? I suggested that it was quite relevant. Does it still speak to you today? And what on this list most grabs you or strikes you?
Don't stand by while your neighbor feeds. Don't ignore the blood of your neighbor. That's very important for people that you pray.
Right, so I'll just repeat it just to make sure that the folks online can hear. Dan said, "Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa." Don't stand idle while your neighbor bleeds. And this is the moral injunction to action. Dan applied it specifically to Ukraine, and it applies to Ukraine where it's genocide. And to just simply say, not our problem, the Torah is saying the exact opposite here. Don't stand by while your neighbor bleeds. I also thought of that verse this week as well. The two generals fighting for control in Sudan, one was the head of the Janjaweed, which was the group in Darfur perpetrating the genocide. The other was also in the army working with him. And amongst the places being attacked right now is Darfur again. And so it's, again, don't stand. And I think that there was an effort to stand, and we're seeing with Ukraine, there's an effort to stand, but the moral injunction to do so. Other thoughts, Lindsay?
So mine is much less, I don't know, important than that, I guess, but to revere your parents really hit me, because I came home last night from choir rehearsal to my mom warning me that my father had a list of complaints because he had gone into my apartment to visit my cat and come back with a list. And I was like, ugh. But upon reflection, I was like, no, those are all valid. That's fair. And it just kind of reminded me that they give me a place to live, and they gave me life, and I need to respect them and not roll my eyes at things that I might think are silly, but that mean something to them. And this reminded me of that.
Right, and there is a text. It's interesting. It says each person, and this is what Sandy chanted: each person should revere one's mother and father. The mother comes first on that list. It also could be fear. Fear your mother and father. Then it says honor your father and mother. So and so the Talmud will pick up why one, why the other, and what they will understand is that. Those aren't emotions, those are deeds, those are actions. And so these are things which you do in terms of how do you act towards them to enable them to feel that they are independent, but also that you're there and you hear them. And so yes, so thank you. Sandy.
Well, I had the advantage of being able to look through the list again in English. I'm not sure where this fits. To me, it's a perversion of justice. But I was reading in the New York Times a little bit about the testimony of Jean Carroll about her rape by Donald Trump in the 90s. And it makes my flesh creep when I think about, is he going to take the stand? Is he going to truthfully deny what I guess I believe he did? It's a perversion of justice for him to treat someone like that, and that's all that was what came to me.
As you read, and as one of the elements of this holiness code is that there can be no deference in justice, whether towards the powerful and the rich or towards the poor. And so when we see deference towards the powerful, that also, which you tend, that goes right against the heart. So my sense is that clearly these very, very, very ancient words are quite ancient, and yet they are also so much a part of now.
I
Linda?
was just thinking of the injustice of air quality. We've heard a lot about that lately, and how, we find a way to make air pure among the, wealthier people, but in the middle of the ghettos, and there's, it's injustice, because those people, the poor who, you know, just don't have the same rights as we do. And I somehow feel it's the same, you know, that the directive to us is, we have food, we should share some. We have good air, how can we share that with the world and make sure that everyone has good air to breathe and good water? I worry about water too, so.
So Linda and I really did not plan this ahead of time, but it's the right closing, because if we go back to where things began, it's anywhere you began, right? It says Kadoshim Tihiyu, you plural will be holy. So the goal here, and this is said to the whole congregation, the goal here is not an individual sort of being holy or holier than thou. The goal is what can be done to make the society, to make all have that very specific sense. And so again, in thinking on that more global mind, and also on the mind to help the people who do not have these things, that's where we see that the kadoshim, the holiness part, is to be a plural, not just an individual. So may the mitzvot of the Holiness Code inspire us in our effort to bring meaning to searching souls and healing to this fractured world. Ken Yiratzon, be this God's will. We turn to page 586 for the Aleinu. We rise. The Aleinu that we will be chanting is the second paragraph down on the page.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kogoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Page 591.
Ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'oretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Page 598. At this moment in our service, we now call to mind our own beloved dead. We pray on their behalf. We voice the confidence that they are remembered for blessing. I ask that those in mourning, or remembering the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise if you are able when their name is mentioned, whether you're in the sanctuary or joining us on social media. During Shloshim, we remember Judy Kipperman, mother of Eric, Linda Schiff, wife of Hacky, and Michael Dorff, brother of Linda Herman. We remember the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Dr. Martin Bodian, Felix Friedman, Ethel Goldberg, Renee Goldman, Harry P. Horn, Jacob Jackowitz, Herman Lester, Sam Levine, Minnie Rich Myers, Toby Perlman, H. Walter Pye, Joanne Ranzer, David Rubin, Stephen Scharf, Patricia Schwartz, Dorothy Stein, David R. Trarig, Ethel Weiss, and Samuel R. Zetzer. We ask our worshipers in our sanctuary, should you have a dear one to add, to please rise and say their name. We ask our worshipers on Zoom to unmute and say the name of their loved one. For those in our sanctuary, should you wish, we invite you to offer a short remembrance of a dear one.
I have, Ethel Goldberg was really very special and full of wisdom. And there's a midrash that says you have two pockets and two messages. One that says you are the center of the universe, and one that says you are a speck in the universe. You know that, and she lived that. I mean, she would, if you kind of went a little too far one way, she would remind you that no, you really are only a speck of dust. But then, if you were like, you know, not that confident, she would build you up. So somehow, I mean, there's many things I remember about her, but she was a wise woman.
That's really, for some will know her here as Bryna's mother, but indeed. We remember the Ukrainian victims of Russia's invasion, more victims today. Each Shabbat, we also mention 6 names amongst the 6 million murdered in the Holocaust, the Shoah. This week, we remember Gusti Roth, Edward Fry, Itzhak Fry, Dov Deutsch, Edward Deutsch, and Zalman Klein. In remembrance and solidarity, and on behalf of those for whom there's no one but us to say Kaddish, we now invite all to rise, if you are able, our Kaddish prayer, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach cherute ve'amlich malchute, B'chaye echon u'vyom echon, u'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavarach le'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shmei dekudusha b'richu. La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimaru, amen. Zechronam levracha. May their memories be for blessing, and let us say, amen. Please be seated. Stephen Reps is the president of B'nai Israel.
Good evening, all. Wonderful to see everyone here in the sanctuary and online. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Rabbi and Linda, for a wonderful service, and Sandy for your beautiful chanting. And Dan, I'm always astonished how easily you hoist the Torah as if it's made from helium. It's amazing. I don't know how you do it. You say there's a technique I would love to learn. Any good news to share this evening? Yes, Andy.
This Sunday, the 30th, will be 44 years ago I remember. It's my son's birthday.
Son's birthday, wonderful, mazel tov. Anyone else? Any more birthdays, anniversaries? How about online? Okay. Tomorrow morning, no Torah study. No Torah study. Rabbi is speaking at the installation at Rabbi Ben Dime. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Dime? Ben Dime is
Florida Rabbi?
It's the nephew of Debbie and Alan Siegel. Okay, so about 6 months ago, I made a suggestion to the Board of Trustees that we should have a gala to celebrate the many milestones which have converged at this point. And after hours and hours of discussion and planning and bartering and hundreds of phone calls and hours on Zoom with the gala committee, it is tomorrow night. We have 134 signed up to be here in the social hall. It's going to be a wonderful event. Sunday, religious school and intro to Judaism. Tuesday, Rabbi's discussion group at 11 a.m. Tuesday at 5, the memorial service for Avshalom Lubin. And next Shabbat service, 7 o'clock as usual. Immediately after the Kiddush and Motzi is tonight's Oneg. We'll actually have it in the social hall since nothing is really set up yet for tomorrow's event. We'll have it in the social hall. Please join us for a treat. The rabbi will be online to say hello about 15 minutes after the Motzi. Wonderful to see everyone. Have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. And our our concluding hymn, which is Ein Keloheinu, which will then be followed by our Kiddush and Motzi. Ein Keloheinu.
And I want to reassure everybody that even though Rabbi is speaking at the installation of a congregant or a nephew of a congregant in Florida, he is doing it via Zoom. That's one of the wonders of the modern age. So he's not going to miss the gala tomorrow.
Not going to miss the gala, no. And very old timers here may remember Harry and Edna Dime, who were wonderful, wonderful people. And so they were the old timers with Debbie and Alan. And so the nephew Ben would come to services here, high holidays here, year after year after year. And it was here that I think he helped catch that bug of wanting to go to rabbinical school. Dan?
That group with either Andy or Andrew was the commission.
That's right. He did it. And Ben was in an a cappella choir in Michigan, Jewish a cappella choir. I don't know if Amy or Andrew was in that there as well. So great guy. I didn't know that. Oh. So Ein Keloheinu, page 626.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Chadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kamoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Emalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Kiddush will be found on page 123. Page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereishit ki hu yom tefillah l'mikraye kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki banu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat amen.
Chaim.
Chaim.
We never know what we're going to get. No hints of citrus tonight.
No, no,
but,
no. Like prunes, maybe. I don't know.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. May God's presence be with you and give you peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.